All right. Welcome back, everybody, to the Best Self Blueprint. The mission of this podcast, as you all know, is to bring on guests who have the knowledge, insights, and experiences as to what it takes to move that dial towards truly becoming the best version of yourself. So, these next guests are serial entrepreneurs who began their entrepreneurial journey as freshmen in high school, building multiple businesses and inventing multiple new products as they earn their high school diplomas, all while battling physical, mental, and emotional health complications. Now, still as teenagers at the University of Miami, they continue to grow a business together while running and growing other businesses and designing more inventions on their own. Outside of their business success, they both have really inspiring stories that I think you'll learn a lot from. So, without further ado, Reed and Evan, how's it going?
Howdy.
Good. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So to start, I just want you guys to give a quick background on, again, like what made you start to think like, I don't just want to go through the motions as a high schooler. I actually want to make more of myself. I want to do more. What kind of got that ball rolling in your heads?
Well,
Well, I
yeah.
guess I can go first. I think for me, like I just from a very young age, I just always naturally wanted to do more. And it's funny, I last night I just started writing. I thought, I've heard a lot about like the power of journaling, the power of just literally writing down your thoughts and kind of reflecting on your life and the day and whatever's going on. And I just started writing, and I just started talking a lot about, like, I just said, okay, I'm just going to sit down. I sat down on my bed with the old composition notebook and pen, and I just started writing whatever I thought. And my mind kind of naturally started to shift toward like my upbringing, because you really can never understand somebody or why they do things or how they do things unless you really know kind of their whole story, or a decent part of it. So I guess my story and kind of my I guess my entrepreneurial ventures, it started probably second or third grade. My best friend and landscaping business partner, Austin, who's two houses down from me, we just started selling golf balls. So we'd go out on the golf course and like just find golf balls. And I looked at those little white money balls as 50 cents a piece. Maybe the Pro Vs were $1 a piece. But we just started like literally rummaging the golf course like every day in the heat, golfers or not. We'd get out of their way, sometimes in their way, but it was for the money. So, second or third grade, no other kids really out there trying to like make money. I mean, maybe the occasional lemonade stand, but we wanted to create something that worked consistently, and that's what we had at that time. So we would find the golf balls, we'd clean the golf balls, we'd sell the golf balls, and we learned a lot, not only about kind of that whole process and the process of sales and business, but I think the most invaluable thing that we learned was how to deal with people. We dealt with a lot of really shitty like people that were just complete cocks that ignored us, but we also dealt with a lot of really good people who, even if they didn't buy from us, at least acknowledged us or said, like it's good to see you guys hustling. So that's kind of, we knew, I think Austin and I knew by like fifth grade that that was the only route. Like there was no other option. Like, that's how we thought, we're going to make money, and we're going to do it in a way that's going to make more money than going to work at Walmart for 15 an hour or whatever it is. So that's kind of what kickstarted that. I've always been a big, questioner since I was a little kid. When I was a little kid, I thought I was in a simulation. Like my parents and like my sister and like everyone was like robots. Like I was like trying to like make sense of everything. And I still am. So that's kind of what kickstarted my journey.
Awesome. Evan, what about you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Reed went way back in his childhood. I mean, I'm trying to even remember those days. But I do know, at least I guess where my intuition for it started is, my parents, They started with one service truck in 1997. I was born in 2002. And then, but I saw this whole culmination growing up of them growing it from one service truck to an entire service business and then a 300 truck fleet on the side. And it was basically just, simply addressing what bigger companies weren't, which is what we're doing now. And we'll get into that. But it's pretty much just a dedication to the customer. So if you look at the customer's point of view, and this is what my parents, I guess, have taught me. Um, they haven't directly said it to me, but I've seen it. Is that they, when a customer is there, it's like, what do they want to see? Well, if you're servicing a truck or whatever, and it's freezing cold, and the guy's having a tough night, and he's got to get home, you don't want somebody coming and just being mean to you and saying, like, or if you try to negotiate on price, just saying no, this is non-negotiable, whatever. You want somebody coming out there, and even though it's inconvenient, and my dad would always go in the night because nobody else wanted to service trucks in the night, he would go out there and he'd be nice to people and look in their shoes and say, well, let's work this out, let's get this solved. And that kind of grew on his truck fleet size, or on their truck fleet. It was pretty much just the driver's perspective. My dad's always had a CDL and he knows trucks better than anybody else, so the drivers respected him. So going into that, I knew, I've gained a lot of, I guess, knowledge in the trucking business, which I can get into too. I have some things going on there. But as far as like catch up plays or whatever, we know now, we didn't exactly know when we started, but when you do things, it's best to, and people respect when you have that knowledge from the very beginning, when you're one of the original co-founders. And also in our case, we didn't just go to somebody to produce our product for us. When you go and do all the steps yourself, you learn a lot more, and people respect your brand and your company a lot more. So going with that, I guess my mindset grew because I saw my parents doing it. They were pretty successful. And the idea was eventually that I would kind of take over the business, but I didn't really want to be in that business because my parents were stressed out because of it. It's a very tedious business to be in. So I guess in fourth grade, I sent my first letter to a company called Hino Trucks. And I sent them this letter that they should build a Class 8 truck, which is a normal size, tractor trailer, because I thought that they should. I liked the look of their trucks, and I thought that I wanted my dad to buy them. My dad told me, he's like, well, we're not in the well, in that case, a little kid talk, box truck business, and so we don't use Hino trucks for our fleet. So I was really aggravated. Well, I sent them this whole letter at that time, and this was kind of my journey, is I wanted to convince them that they needed to do this. So I sent the letter to their headquarters. I said, I want you to build a Class 8 truck. I sent them sketches, and I said, I want my dad to buy these trucks, and you need to do it because there's tremendous opportunity. And this is just what I knew at the time. And they sent me back a cool letter. They sent me back a model truck and whatever, and they didn't do anything beyond that. But actually 3 years ago, they did bring out a Class 8 truck, and it's a pretty phenomenal truck. Now, obviously I wasn't through a cause of that, but that was kind of my start of trying to convince people that they should do things a certain way. And then with that, I just want to solve problems. And I guess my girlfriend will tell you, because I get pretty annoying, that if I see any problems, like I don't like parking lots. Like I'll go to parking lots and I start complaining about how to fix them and whatever. Any problem I say, I try to solve. And she's like, it's the 80-20 rule. You got to spend 80% of your time focusing on what you really can, because there's nothing you can do to change that. I'm like, well, that's true, but I'm still here and I try to solve problems. So everything I've done since then is from the customer's perspective and with the idea of solving problems that aren't already solved. So I guess with that, products wise, we have Ketchup Please, which we can get into the direct story of that, but that's a product that solves a lot of people's, diabetics, people with corn allergies, and even mainstream, beyond the early adopters in America. It solves a lot of problems. And then Tree 360, which is a kind of innovative way. It's a tray that goes under your tree stand. It's patented, and it collects water if it falls sap and pine needles. I also have a lot of experience and then a patent and a continuing application in the area of electric Class 8 trucks. So that was kind of, I grew up with trucks. I've seen how they mechanically work. They're actually diesel engines are pretty efficient, but all the moving parts are pretty inefficient. So just accelerating that. And then Also, with my girlfriend, we have a patent now, or a pending application on a notebook paper that's designed for lefties. I don't know if either of you are lefties. I don't think Reed's a lefty, right? No. Okay. So when you write, you smear across the page if you're a lefty, if you think about it, because that you're writing into the ink. Um, and so or writing across the ink. So we designed this thing. It's called double header. It has two headers on it, so you can start from the back or the front or flip it, so you don't have to keep writing across the page. You can start from the top or the bottom. So again, just solving common problems. But if you want, I can kind of go into the story of ketchup, please, which is kind of the main business we're focusing on today, I think, Reed, right? Because we're the two partners in it.
Yeah. So really the thing that I want you to talk about is why you started it, because to me this is super interesting. Of like you were talking about, it's to you it's so simple. Like you go out in the world, you see a problem, you find a solution. But there are a lot of people who don't think that way. They think of that 80% that you can't fix. They kind of let that pool into the 20% that you can fix, and they just think, okay, it's a problem. Like, I'd rather complain about it than fix it. So talk about what led up to you thinking about this design for a new ketchup, and then what in your mind made you go from, okay, it would be nice to have, to I'm going to be the one to make it.
Yeah, I guess I can start at the beginning, and then we can kind of cover where we are since production. So I guess, well, going way back again, I would produce ketchup with my grandmother. So this is going way back, and it wasn't healthy by any means. We pour corn syrup in there, which is not healthy, and sugar and spice and everything nice, so to speak. And it was fine. It tasted good, but I had a little bit of experience with ketchup, I guess, but not. I mean, obviously, I wasn't a food scientist, and I do want to touch on that difference in a second too. But um, anyway, so I like making ketchup, and I've always enjoyed cooking. Kind of. Some things are easier than others, but I was so what happened was in seventh grade, I went in for a physical for football. And at that time, I was playing six sports. It may not look like it now, but I was playing a lot of sports in middle school. And and I went to the physical, and it was a routine physical. But my pediatrician, who's been with me since I was a baby, was he's really, really, really good. And he's like, well, I told him, I said, I have some numbness in my hands, and I thought maybe I was sitting on them in school or whatnot. And he's like, well, that might be the case, but it might be heart related. So your insurance covers it, whatever. I suggest you just go see a cardiologist, just get your heart checked, just in case. And so I go to the cardiologist office. We're sitting in the waiting room. I go in, everything's kind of routine. The doctor, the cardiologist is talking to me, and he's like, you might just have to take a pill for this. There might be, because I had some palpitations too, but when you're growing really quickly and your heart's a muscle, it's not uncommon for that to happen. Or high caffeine. I was drinking a lot of caffeine too. So he's like, I might just take a pill, calm things down. Well, he did an EKG. And then he came in and did the echocardiogram. So you have like your electro and then your echo. And echo is like when an ultrasound basically. And he's like, well, and we're sitting there for like an hour. I'm on the table. He's putting this cold gel in my chest and whatever. And he's like, well, I asked him, I said, well, what's going on? He says, well, I'm not going to lie, but this is really bad. He's like, you have a hole in your heart. And I'm like, I have a hole in my heart, And this is one of those things that's kind of hard to comprehend when you're in seventh grade. But I, uh, I, I wasn't like in shock. Like I wasn't crying or anything. My mom was freaking out. I was kind of like, I was just like, wow, this is just kind of insane. Like this is a really weird moment. Like it's one of those crazy moments. I don't know, maybe if you've been in like a car accident or something and time slows down and you're just like, wow, this is really, really freaky. And so anyways, that year I had to quit all contact sports, and I went in for open heart surgery on September 29th, 2015. All went perfect. And I had 7 weeks of recovery here at my house. And I just was thinking, I was, when you have time alone, I was just kind of thinking, and I'm like, it'd be kind of funny. What happened was I went to a Culver's drive-thru with my father, and they said, "Would you like some ketchup, please?" And I thought, well, it'd be kind of funny if you had a name ketchup, please, because people would say ketchup, please, please when you asked for it. And so I had the name. So that's basically this whole story. The reason I'm saying is I had a story and I had a name for the product. But I didn't act on it at that time. Anyways, I go into high school, and at that same time, I had that patent pending for the battery stuff. The Tree 360 was going on. So I had that stuff going on the side in a normal school life. And then this ketchup please idea in my head, just name. Well, I was talking to some friends in my friend circle about it, and I guess word got out, and Reed gave me a call in August that year. I think it was going into sophomore year, and he's like, "Well, I hear you want to start a ketchup business." I'm like, "Well, kind of. I mean, I have a name, and I guess I mean, at that time, eventually, pretty quickly, we found out we had the story because it was health oriented, but."
Yeah, so
Um,
I just want to interject real quick. So for people who don't know, ketchup is not in and of itself a very healthy product. It's got, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of sugar in it, like a
Yeah, it's
lot of
4
sugar.
grams of sugar per tablespoon or per serving, which is about 25% of the entire product. So
Yeah, so just for people who didn't know that going in, ketchup originally is not exactly the healthiest thing. And so when he talks about like the story was leading to him wanting to make a healthy version of ketchup. So just wanted to
yeah.
mention that.
Well, and there's a caveat. It's one thing to make a healthy ketchup. It's another thing to make a good tasting healthy ketchup. On the same premise that it's easy to make a soda, it's another thing to make a healthy, or healthy, good tasting soda. Um, And this is what I just want to get into really quick before I guess Reed will cover the rest of that story there with ketchup, please. But my dad and we use this analogy. We call it just keep cranking, right? And for those, I mean, there's a couple things. Either when you're trying to turn over a car engine, you try to keep it cranking, or on a dolly on a trailer, which are the upbreak. People probably don't know, but you keep cranking it until you get to the right height. But it's kind of the same premise in business, is that you just have to keep cranking. So here's the thing. Let's say your car doesn't start in the morning, right? You're like, dang it, you're turning it, it's not cranking over, right? At first you're gonna try it a couple times. This is what a lot of entrepreneurs, people who try to do. They crank it a couple times, like, dang, it's not working. And then what they do is they try to find some alternative distraction. Like they'll try to find somebody to pick them up or something to so that they don't have to deal with the problem anymore. Instead of thinking, well, I can create a solution to this problem myself, I'm going to have somebody else deal with it. And so the trick is, and this is kind of an entrepreneurial mindset, is that, okay, you may not be able to get a turnover. Maybe you do. Maybe you tried a little bit and all of a sudden you're running and things are good and great. And then your car doesn't start in the morning again. So the next morning, it's not turning over, whatever. Do you call a mechanic? Maybe. Again, it's somebody else solving the problem for you. Or without any mechanical experience, do you fix it yourself? Do you find a YouTube video and do you go and you fix, the spark plug or whatever's wrong in the engine? Now, the entrepreneur, and to be successful, you need to be able to take that responsibility on yourself and say, I'm going to get this engine to turn over and get this thing up and running. So it may be a big problem, but you don't have to be a mechanic to fix it. And the same thing with ketchup, please. You don't have to be a food scientist to create a healthy condiment. We spent 87 recipes in about a year and a half in development, creating this product that tastes better than Heinz. And we don't have, I'm sure Heinz probably has a room of 50 food scientists. We didn't have any experience. We didn't have fancy college degrees. We just went out there and we did it. So you don't have to be a mechanic to fix the car issue. You don't have to be a food scientist to fix this obesity epidemic in America and create a healthy condiment for diabetics and people struggling with heart issues. All of this, you don't have to be accredited, so to speak, to do it. So I just want to put that out there for people that are listening, that just because your badge doesn't say car mechanic, or your badge doesn't say food scientist, or your badge doesn't say entrepreneur, it doesn't mean that you're not and that you can't be. So Reed can kind of get into well, we had this idea for the ketchup. Reed, if you want to explain how we got into our niche and then how
I
we ended.
like what you were saying about the labels. I hate labels because labels limit. I think that like when you I just think about, like, for example, LinkedIn. When you're talking about your headline on LinkedIn, it's very, very hard for me to think of that, because it's like when you label yourself, or when you label anyone as anything, it limits them to that. You know, it limits, if I call myself an entrepreneur, that means that that's kind of all that I am. But if I call myself a human, we're all humans. That's what we are. You know, we're all on the same search, you know, for better, for meaning, for what matters. But yeah, no, I can get into the story from there. So yeah, sophomore year, about April of sophomore year of high school, got together with Evan, went over to his house. He had an initial recipe, tastes like complete shit. Went over, you know, I said, okay, well, let's like edit it up a little bit. So at that point we were like going on CarMax, looking at like used like Mercedes and like BMWs, and we're like, okay, we're gonna have $100,000 in revenue in 3 months, and we're gonna buy a new BMW. I'm like, junior year, I'm gonna pull up to school in the Beamer. But the more that we went on with it, you know, the more we learned and the more realistic and we got, and the broader perspective of the world that we got. So yeah. So all of that summer, all of junior year, we worked on developing the recipe. As Evan said, 87 batches, mainly in Evan's kitchen, until we kind of found the perfect blend, or close to the perfect blend. Which we're actually still kind of working on perfecting to this day. I mean, it's never going to be perfect. We're always perfecting. But junior year, then we were in Future Business Leaders of America club through the school, and we did a 9,000 word, 30-page business plan. And that taught us a lot. You know, that taught us not only kind of the ins and outs of the industry that we were in, the ins and outs of the business, marketing, all aspects of the business, because this was a full, you know, complete business plan, like everything that you could possibly think of. But also kind of just persistence, you know, like the, you know, we've always said the ends justify the means, but even then, I don't think that the ends that we had in mind would justify the means. I mean, I think it was like $1,000 or $1,500 for a grand prize, which, you know, the amount of time that we put into that wouldn't have been worth it. But it's not about that. It's about what the other things that we learned, the intangible things that we learned, and that made us better business people and better people in general. So we did that. We worked on getting licensed to sell by the state, which is a whole ketchup conundrum. Like, I think, you know, my dad, so you have to take an acidified foods course to become able to process in a commercial kitchen and produce. So you also had to be 18 to do that. So my dad actually went to UW-Madison and took that course, and he was kind of the person who is like technically in charge of that. But we were very, very close to being licensed to sell. And I think this was probably in January, February of that year. And we got an email from Barb, who is our FDA agent in Madison. And she said that our ketchup doesn't meet the standard of identity of ketchup because it didn't contain a nutritive carbohydrate sweetener, i.e. sugar or high fructose corn. So basically a sweetener with caloric value. And she said, you know, I can't let you sell this as ketchup, but you can sell it as spiced tomato sauce. And we're like, okay, well, now we're kind of fucked, because what do we do? Like, do we sell it as, do we completely rebrand the whole thing? Like, this is ketchup, please. Like, this is what we've been working on for the past 8 months. Like, what are we supposed to do? And I think at that point, you know, we started researching the market. We found that there's other products that were using stevia or other non-nutritive carbohydrate sweeteners. Kind of put together a bit of a PowerPoint to her, sent it to her, you know, said, these are all on the market. Like, what are they doing to get there? And about 2 months later, she hit us back with an email and said, I like to go on long bike rides. And I went on a long bike ride this morning, and I was thinking about you guys, and I thought I'm just gonna let it slide. So she basically put us on the FDA exempt list. We didn't have to adhere to that, and especially kind of at the scale that we were at. The standard of identity actually changed a couple months later, so that you didn't have to include a nutritive carbohydrate sweetener. You had to include, I think there were 4: tomato paste, vinegar, spices, and then the sweetener. And instead of including all 4, you only had to include 3. So I don't know if that was a coincidence or if we were in part of that. I don't know. So there is that. We eventually did get licensed to sell and produce. And then USDA organic certification, which was also a whole fiasco. This was all junior year. Like, it was literally every day at lunch, Evan and I would get together and our friends would come by us. Like, we would stand there and like have our daily community board meeting, and everyone would get in and kind of, we'd talk about what's going on and stuff. But USDA Organic, we worked with a company out of Iroquois, Wisconsin. And initially they sent us like 30, 40 forms, and we're like, shit, like, we can't do it. Like, I don't know how to fill this out. So, we just started filling out what we could, and we were on the phone with them for hours and hours. Like, they helped us a lot kind of to get through that process. And July 19th of 2019, going into senior year, we did get our USDA organic certification and had our first farmers market the next day at the Delafield Farmers Market. Did over $900 in sales. And we did a few more markets that summer, got into about 15 boutique retailers in the southeastern Wisconsin area. And then we're kind of thinking, okay, well, what is senior year? We're like, are we going to college? Are we kind of going to take this leap of faith? We thought, well, business isn't at a point now, right now, where we're able to take that leap of faith. So Evan and I both decided on the University of Miami, Florida. We're going to kind of work on building the business as we're in school and in the Miami area as well. So we just started figuring out, so how are we going to build this there? Well, we can't produce ourselves. So we started calling around different manufacturers, co-packers in the area, found one in East Troy. We have had our own problems with that too. We met with them initially in August of last year, and they said it would be a 3-month process from coming to them with initial, conception recipe to production. It ended up being 14 months. We didn't get our production run done until October 21st of this year. Had about 4,000 bottles produced, 1,200 of which were defective, and the seal under the cap didn't actually adhere correctly to the bottle. So we're working on getting a refund with them. So there has been a ton of adversity that we have faced, but we're here now. We are working on perfecting the label. We're going to have a upside down label, flip top, squeeze cap. A beautiful label is going to come out here soon. We're going to have another about 5,000 or 6,000 bottles produced in the coming months. And we're going to work on getting into some grocery store chains and health food chains in the area, starting in Wisconsin, work our way to the Midwest, do some things in Miami, Florida area, and then eventually grow nationally.
Yeah. And so I was going to say, some people may ask, why after the FDA thing, after the co-packer thing, after COVID, why we didn't stop and cut our losses? Because it seems, well, on paper, that seemed like a very easy decision. Well, it seemed like almost impossible to make money out of this. But there's one thing, and if you start your entrepreneurial journey, you will find this. Especially after we ran a holiday, actually, this is even super recent. We ran a holiday special. It's still going on, $5 for $24.99. And we kind of promoted it. We've been in some Facebook groups. Reed's been in more on that Facebook side handling that. And there's a feeling you get. You can't really compare it to getting your diploma. It's better than that because even though you worked for that, it wasn't directly you. There's a feeling you get when you create a product or you do a service and people say, I love this product, or this product is perfect for me, or I can't believe I finally found this, or somebody finally came up with this and it tastes amazing. Or in the Facebook group, we had somebody, I guess you call them a couple haters hating on our product. And you see these people you've never met before
just
who tried our
random
product.
people in the community start commenting like best ketchup ever. Like,
Yeah,
you
they
got
started defending us. And when you have people, when you build this community, and we're still growing it, obviously a lot, like we might have impacted 1,500 people so far. I can't put a count on it. You don't know. But as you grow that, all of a sudden people start to defend your product. And it feels so good that this product, you spent all this time and energy and going back and forth with different agencies, manufacturers, and to create this product. And all of a sudden you get the validation. And that is the best thing ever. But that doesn't come, and it's hardly coming now, but it doesn't come for, like, it took us 2.5 years to really get real validation. And even then, we still had a couple people. I mean, our tomato paste is darker than we wanted it to be, that we're fixing and whatnot. But going forward, it's just that feeling of validation that you're doing something right is like the greatest
like
feeling.
we're not even doing it for us anymore. Like, we're doing it literally for everyone, like for everyone, because everyone eats ketchup and we're doing it for our community. And another thing, like, I think that, like, why we didn't stop and why we're never going to stop is, like, the way that I look at it is, like, every single day more that we put into this, that we work on the business, that we run the business, is like a day closer to, it's like, it makes me want to quit less, because it's like, we've put this much time into it, like, and each day that time keeps growing. It's like, okay, well, we're not going to just completely throw away the past almost 3 years now of our lives. Like, this is all this time that we've put into this needs to go somewhere.
Yeah. And in the spirit of the holiday season, it's the snowball effect. You keep layering on and making that snowball bigger and bigger, but you're heading towards a good place, a good goal. But
all building blocks. We're building an empire, and it starts with one brick.
Yeah. So yeah, I know some viewers are probably like, gee, like, you have no idea actually in those moments, like, it was really, really, really difficult. But I don't think, I mean, reading, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think we ever really said, ever, why don't we stop? I don't think that was ever an option.
Never even
It never even crossed our minds that, well, why don't we just, like, cut our losses and stop? It was just, what can we, like, we got to figure out a solution now, and what are we going to do that? So
Yeah, so this brings up a good point of something I go through with my clients of, are you interested or are you committed? So people who are interested, and this ties everything together. It ties in the persistence you're talking about. It ties in overcoming adversity. It ties in keep on cranking. It ties in all of it. Is if you're just interested, as soon as it gets a little inconvenient, as soon as you crank it a couple times and it doesn't work, you're going to call that friend to bail you out. If you're committed and you have a strong why tethered to the reason you're doing something, you're committed. You're going to overcome that adversity. You're going to keep battling through those obstacles because there is a strong reason to keep doing it. If there wasn't a strong reason to keep doing it, you'd just be like, oh, whatever, this sucks. This isn't fun. I'm out.
yeah, I can't believe you just said that. Reed, what was the video when we were originally with Cole that we watched over and over again?
Start with why.
Yeah, that video we watched, it's a 10-minute video. It's the greatest video I think I've ever seen to this day. And it's Simon Sinek, and he explains why Apple is so much more competitive and better than other companies. And he has this big chart, and it's always start with why. If you don't have a reason or a purpose of why you're doing it, you're not going to enjoy it or want to keep innovating. And I mean,
that why is kind of ever changing, right? Like, that why is kind of different 3 years ago. Like, I don't know. We can say that I'm not going to lie and say that the why is because Evan underwent open heart surgery. That might be his why. But, as you develop and as you grow the business and as you do these things, it almost becomes more personal. Like, it's like, I don't know about you, Evan, but over the past 3 years, because I think especially with the help of Ketchup Please, like, I've just grown as an individual so much. And I just look at that as like that's that. I mean, there's a ton of whys, but that's a major why. It's like, because every single day that we're working on this thing, we're growing so much. Because one thing that I talk a lot about and like that I think a lot about is like just learning practical, like just learning the things that actually exist, that actually matter, that actually are important. And you learn what's important by doing. You learn what actually matters by going out into the world, by starting a business, by bringing a product to market, whatever it is, and you learn as you go. Like I'm in business school right now, but I'm going to switch over to arts and sciences because I'm not going to learn anything in business school that's going to help me in this, like not necessarily, but I'm going to learn these things that will help me as I go, because I can sit down at any given moment, look at the business and say, okay, well, this is lacking, so let's fix it. I can look up on YouTube, how do I fix this? Like, it's all right in front of us. So it's a constant learning journey.
100%. So although yes, they were simply telling a story, but I hope people can pick all these amazing lessons out of there. Start with why is level 1. If you do not have a reason why you're doing what you're doing, you need to seriously check what you're doing and probably change it. So start with why. And then another big thing is, like they talked about, they didn't even debate quitting, because once you have that why, once you have that foundational core reason behind what you're doing, you know how imperative it is to stay on that journey. And yeah, you're going to have to pivot. Yeah, you're going to have to maybe make 87 different recipes or try something 87 different times, or heck, hundreds or thousands of different times. But if you're really committed and you really know that's what's important, you got to keep going. And that, I think a big part of that, so two big parts of that. One, I truly believe in like callousing the mind and making sure that you're mentally tough. But also, I believe in having faith and attracting the things you want to attract. So I think this is a good point, especially Reed. I know you're really big into law of attraction, manifestation, and just making sure that you're not only exerting the energy you want in the world, but you're trying to attract the energy you want as well. What impact has that played in not just like the business, but in, your personal growth?
Yeah, I think I never really got into any of that spiritual stuff until like kind of the past 3 months. Like I was kind of I can go into this a little bit. Like before, like the last couple of years of high school, I was very lost mentally. Like we were working on the business and I was engaged in the business, but in terms of school, I was like, what am I doing here? Like especially senior year, I'm like, this is a complete waste of my time. I feel like I'm in jail. I feel like I'm being told what to do. Like I just want to go out into the world and experience this stuff for me. But I made the decision to go down to Miami this past semester, and it was the best decision I've ever made because it put myself just in a place. So I'm reading this book right now that I actually have here. It's called Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. It's insane. Like I haven't read many books, but that's what I was telling my mom. I'm like, I usually can't get 30 pages through a book, and I think I'm 190 through this one because it's just that good. And one thing that he talks about is sometimes you need to leave what you know to find out what you know. So that really resonated with me because like I was so kind of overstimulated by kind of I've been in southeastern Wisconsin my whole life, and I've traveled to some places and loved it, and just loved I'm a huge fan of culture and experiencing different places and stuff. But going to Miami and kind of going out of my traditional comfort zone was something that I felt like I really, really needed. I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure out at all kind of what I was doing, why I was doing it. I went down and I got COVID, like literally like move-in day. And I think that was a blessing in disguise because my mom was down there with me. She got it as well. And we luckily she was there because we were able to get a condo on the beach and do our quarantine on the beach. And it was basically 10 days of just pure like relaxation. And I deleted Snapchat off my phone, and I kind of just like when you get away from the constant stimulation and you just look at the world as it is, every to this day, like I just try to spend as much time just kind of like perceiving, just forming my own thoughts. And that's the most powerful thing that anyone can ever do. Instead of constantly, every time you look at your phone, obviously the phone's a great tool, but it's putting ideas and thoughts into your mind that weren't previously there. And I view that as like, that's not natural. That's weird. Like it's not necessarily the best thing. So getting away from that, I really kind of was able to find myself a bit. And yeah, like I got to and then I got to campus. It was weird because my roommate had actually gotten COVID the day before I moved in. So like that first week I knew no one. Like I was just kind of trying to figure it out. Like I literally didn't know anyone. So that's when it just, the law of attraction thing, it just started like naturally coming to my mind. I'm like, okay, I am in this place. I'm in Miami. I'm like, okay, I know me. Like I know what I'm good at. I know what I like to do. I know, the kind of people that I like, and it's just going to happen. Like I'm just going to do the things that I want to do, and I'm going to kind of meet the people that I naturally need to meet. So that's kind of how that whole idea came into my mind.
Yeah, I think that's important is you have the duality of, yes, I do believe these things will naturally gravitate into my life, but at the same rate, like that means I need to go out and do the things I like and
Right.
get in those environments and get in front of those people, because I think oftentimes people know what they want to be doing, they know who they want to be hanging out with, but if you're never putting yourself in those situations, it's never going to manifest. You do have to, you know, let the opportunity present itself in a sense.
And I think college for a lot of people can be kind of a dangerous place in terms of like in those regards. It's also a very opportunistic place, as I've found, if you use it the right way. But in especially freshman year of college, what I found is everyone does what everyone does. Like everyone goes to this one, Pub 52. It's the one, college bar. Like I walked in there once and it's all Miami freshmen. And it's like I felt like, I talked to a bunch of them, kids there and stuff, and it's the same 10-second conversation every single time. It's like, where are you from, what's your major? I'm like, this is a waste of my time. Like I'd literally be better off like walking around Miami by myself. And putting myself in that environment in Miami, it's like you're forced to mature. It's like, you have these options, man. You have these options to go along with kind of what the average, I guess, like frat kid is doing, and just like go into these bars and chase chicks and stuff. And one thing that Matthew McConaughey talks about in this book is, he said, when my friends were going to these bars and chasing sorority chicks, I was at the one, like, this like all black bar, and I was the only white kid in there, and he got like a job there. And just putting yourself in an environment that may not necessarily like seem natural can do wonders.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a part of that is you have to be willing to be a little uncomfortable sometimes. If you're always chasing comfortable situations, A, you're never going to grow, because in
Mhm.
order to grow, you have to get uncomfortable. We've all hit puberty and hit growth spurts, and you have like the knee pains and like the growing pains, and it's uncomfortable. It's a big change, and the bigger the change, the more uncomfortable it is. But that's where you find yourself. So even if you put yourself in an uncomfortable situation and you're like, okay, that sucked, I hated every minute of it, I think I got nothing out of it. Great. Take that off the list. You've done it. You know that's not you. You know that doesn't work, but you know, and you have to grow to know. So
And look at those situations as positive. Just look at everything as positive. Why can't we just well, let's just look at it. I mean, obviously everything's not positive. Acknowledge that things are bad, but also acknowledge that those things are put in our life for a reason. I've never been a huge, you know, my grandparents are Catholic. I've never been a huge like man of religion or anything, but now today more than ever, I have more faith than ever that these things are put into our lives for a reason. Whether like it's these things are making you better for the next moment. Like we're all made for the moment. And we can get to that moment, and we can either let the moment define us, or we can define the moment. It's all up to us. And the more that we are put through challenging situations, both good and bad situations, the more experience we have and the more control we have of what happens.
yeah, you said something really powerful in there about let's talk about the moment. So as people who have listened to this before, they know I'm a mindfulness meditation coach. And one thing you learn really quickly about anxiety and depression, outside of obviously some people just have base chemical imbalances that are a part of that. But for most people who don't have that and experience anxiety and or depression or just constant stress, very, very, very little of that time is happening in the present moment. It's either something they're thinking about from the past that they want to change, or they want to get a do-over, or they're over analyzing, or it's something in the future that hasn't even happened yet that, again, they're overthinking or they're worrying about. And I think when you can allow yourself to come back into the present moment and just experience what life is giving you right now,
Mhm.
so much of that worry, so much of that stress goes away, and you'll realize how much time you've wasted thinking about things that either you have no control over or have no actual application to causing you stress.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, I would say, like, I mean, just based on I don't have experience with other people, but I'm not a therapist or anything, but I'm off of my experience and being not I wouldn't say depressed, but like I saw a psychologist or whatever, and they didn't do shit for me. They were thinking like they were thinking, oh, you got to write stuff on your calendar. You're just dealing with too much stuff. I would just say, get off your ass. Like, stop thinking about it. Go for a walk. Like the walk, like just literally most of us can do it, like just go for a walk around the block, go outside, get some fresh air, or maybe go for a longer walk. Maybe go, if you have the means to do it, like put yourself in an environment that you're not used to, and just like enjoy the moment, figure out yourself.
Yeah, I would say it's funny you mentioned the walking thing. I mean, I really enjoy golf. And so this is, I think, the perfect example is there's two ways when you're playing golf, you can kind of look at it. People get really, especially, well, first of all, you're not a pro. I don't know any pros. You're not a pro. You don't have to worry about the way you're playing. And so people get fed up in the way they're playing and they'll think about, the future shot and they, slice it right, my future score, la, la, la. Or, and this is why I prefer walking when I play golf. And this is where I really, when I played varsity golf, I got really, really, really good at golf, is when I just went and played by myself and walked and thought, and I just did. And I didn't think of, I used to, when I always had a private coach and I always thought about shaping shots and whatever. And I just stopped doing that. I just said, I'm just going to hit the shot and take each shot next and next and next. And all of a sudden my scores dramatically improved. And it was remarkable how it happened. Instead of trying to plan every shot out. And then when it doesn't go to plan, like, let's say, you block something wide right, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, it didn't go to plan. I can't do my game plan anymore. If you don't have that and you're just like, well, okay, what do I do next? And then you go from there and you can kind of relax and take in everything. It's a lot easier to play and you score better. And if golf were the game of life and that helps you play better and get a better score, if that's the way you want to perceive it, then there you go. But I mean, it's remarkable how many people think they're professional golfers and get aggravated when actually, if you ask the pros too, when they're in the moment, when when Tiger is coming down the 18th hole in the Masters, he's not thinking about the what degree he's swinging and all the facets and whatever. He's got a caddy for that anyways, but he's just saying, you know what, I got this shot. I'm gonna take a swing, and if I win, I win, and whatnot. It's just gonna happen. So I don't know. Yeah, just don't overthink it, and it
Well,
helps a lot.
constant flow state. People talk about trying to achieve flow state in the moment, like in certain moments. Like I just think it's just achieve flow state all the time. Let's live flow state. Like let's live kind of in that stage, like Evan was saying, where nothing outside of yourself can affect you. Like nothing, not anything could happen right now, and it's not going to phase me. Like just like always live in that kind of know yourself, know what you do. And start to learn about the world, and like you'll be in that state like all the time.
yeah, man. And that's why I love life in the sense that it takes a very specific hobby or specific area and it teaches you a lesson that can be applied universally. So a lot of athletes will take lessons they learn in sports and apply them in life. A lot of business owners will take things they learn from the process of building a business and apply them to life. And I just think that's so fascinating. And life just has this almost humorous way of teaching you lessons. And just being able to receive those lessons, I think, is so important, which again brings us back to just if you're in the present moment and you're actually seeking out the lessons that life is trying to teach you, you're going to go so much further. So, yeah, that was powerful, man. That went in a really good direction, and I think there's a lot of really good content in there. Now, before we wrap up, I have a final two, which I think I might have mentioned to you guys about. But before we get into the final two, where can people, connect with you guys? Where can they ask questions if they're trying to start a business, or if they're going through, trying to find out who the real them is, or
Yeah.
they're having
I mean,
trouble with.
could you possibly tag it in like the description too? Or
Yep. So yeah, I'll put this stuff in the show notes.
yeah, so go ahead. I mean, that all that information for both of us will be there.
Yeah.
And you
So I mean, yeah, it's at KP Ketchup is our company on Instagram. I'm at Evan Lampsa. I think he's at Recastling or Recastling 44. And then I would suggest if anybody wants to talk to us, connect with us on LinkedIn. You just look up our names, and we're willing to talk to you. And not that we're like, whatever, but we do know, obviously we know you, but we know a lot of people in the business world, the entrepreneur world, now that we've just met, over time, that, you come, if you talk to us, we might say, hey, this person would probably be great for you to talk to, and run some ideas by. So yeah, if you're listening to this, it's Evan Lampsa, and then read Kastner-Lang on LinkedIn.
I would
Awesome.
also say, to go off of that, one more thing, kind of like just if you're thinking about anything, whether it's a certain career path or starting a business, just ask people that have done it. Like, just ask people, and most people are willing to give you advice, and maybe they'll even have, like Evan said, like connections that can help you. So just don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah, that is in my opinion the top three things to do if you have any idea of starting a business, starting a job, starting a new hobby. Track someone down who's done it and done well with it, and just ask them questions.
And I want to
I
talk to
love that.
people starting. I want to talk to, like, most business owners, like the ones that I've talked to, like they're excited about it. Like, even if we're not gonna do, like, I've talked to a couple of co-packers and label companies and stuff. Like, even if we're not actually gonna do business together, it's like they'll give you, like, they've given me 45 an hour of their time, like, just because they're inspired, like they enjoy it. And I really enjoy doing that too, like, and talking to other kids that are thinking about starting stuff, other like adults, that are anyone.
The power of connection, man. It's powerful. If you want to learn about that, I just had a post that was on my personal Instagram page about this last weekend. I was able to connect with I got on a call with hundreds of people from over 50 countries, and you get put in a random breakout room with two other people, and you get asked like really deep, personal, intimate questions, and you just have to, drop your walls and get vulnerable and really learn about the person. And when you can really connect with people, whether you've known them for years or known them for minutes, I think that's a really, really powerful skill to have, an opportunity to take in. So
I saw that and I was like, I want to do that. Was that through like a organization, or
yeah,
like
so I'll let you know about the group. It's a group called Yes Theory. They have YouTube, and it's just phenomenal. They've amassed millions of followers, and just their message is incredible. So for anyone who doesn't know about Yes Theory, I also recommend checking them out. But yeah, they have a Facebook group, and then in the Facebook group, people just set up all these crazy things. So
yeah, that's cool.
I'll when we're done with this, I'll send that info over.
Okay,
But
okay.
it is time. The final two questions. So the
Uh-oh.
first question, and you guys can each answer individually, but What right now is the biggest obstacle between you and your best self?
We
Oh
can go
shit.
first.
I'm gonna need about 12 seconds here.
12, 11, 10.
Ah. I feel like I'm at a good place right now, if I'm gonna be honest. I feel like I've been working a lot on it, I've been working a lot on that. But that's tough because like if you asked me this a year ago, I would have started shooting off oh, too much partying, too much alcohol, too much. Like now I feel like I'm at a really good spot in terms of balance, in terms of making time obviously for business, making time for connecting, making time for family, friends, partying, everything. It's all, I mean, obviously there's things that I don't know about myself. But I'm just going to keep living, man. Like I'm just going to keep growing.
And I see you're drinking the smoothies. I know we talked about you doing that. I saw you drinking that smoothie, so he is on the ball. I'll give him that. Evan, what about you?
So I would say, and I think, and actually, this actually applies directly to Reed, is that this applies to business and other things. I have thought up until recently that if you can't find somebody qualified to do something, or they can't do it the way you do it, because they always, there's the phrase, if you want something right, you need to do it yourself, which is true. But instead of trying to find somebody just to replace them and taking a risk on just whatever, it's more okay. Instead of saying if you want something done right, do it yourself. If you want something to do right, done right, teach people how to do it the way you do it. And so, I mean, honestly, this is with Reed. I even thought about this a little bit. I'm more of the accounting side of the business, and I was a little bit. I'm being honest with Reed. I was a little bit aggravated. Like one time we had an invoice screwed up, or whatever. I was like, God dang, I just whatever. And I realized though is that like I controlled all of that up until this point in the business, and I never like showed or Reed like even with our online ordering until you got a new phone, didn't even have mobile orders like there, and I never taught him how to do it. And so, I mean, we have a meeting later tonight. Might go over a couple things. Like I want to go over QuickBooks a little bit more with him, which I'm not an expert in, or spreadsheets, but I've had a lot of experience with, and just kind of, instead of again trying to find somebody else, and this goes back to the whole entrepreneur thing. Instead of trying to shift the priority or the blame or the task on somebody else to do it, either do it yourself if you can, or if it's too much, or it's going over and over again. I need to learn how to teach people to do things the way I want to see it. Because, I'm kind of OCD about things that just say maybe at a farmer's market, maybe instead of putting, and this isn't the case, I'm not this OCD, but instead of putting the bottles in a triangle, like they'll put 12 in a triangle, maybe they're all scattered. And instead of just saying, well, I'm just going to do it myself or find somebody who knows to do that, I can say, hey, and actually talk to them, and it's communication, and say, this is the way I think it should be, and this is why, or whatever, and next time let's do this, and kind of work with them and teach them, and become more of a teacher than an inhibitor. So I'm working on that personally, because the thing is that what?
Teach them how to fish.
Oh yeah. But I don't know. I would just say, yeah, I mean, there's a certain way I like seeing things done, but at the end of the day, there's only so much I can do too. And you need and to feel comfortable with other people doing things, you need to teach them how to do it. And then obviously, if for some reason it doesn't turn out the way, either you reteach them or you keep asking them, and eventually it might be a lost cause. Unfortunately, I mean, I don't want to call our first business partner a lost cause, but we really tried, Reed and I tried to teach him. I guess you could say, I mean, maybe not in the best way because we were juniors at that time, but it just, we couldn't necessarily get, there's a point you reach, but if you keep teaching people, if there's a way you want it done. Now, if there's something you don't know, then ask people. But if there's a way you like seeing things in a way you know how to do things, then teach people how to do it. And then, you have that communication and everybody's kind of matched. So that's where I'm working on personally, is learning how to teach.
It's a really important skill, especially if you are looking to lead an organization or lead a group. If you're not able to communicate and teach effectively, game over. So I'm really glad you mentioned that. I'm glad you're working on that, because you guys have a big thing coming if you keep doing what you're doing. And I know the team you end up having will appreciate that skill. Now, the final question is my absolute favorite part. I love having people on. If I could do a podcast and literally just start it with this question, I think it would be amazing. What is one challenge you have for anyone who listens to this? Like one thing they can do, a new habit they can pick up, maybe something to just do one time. What is one challenge you have that when they do it, it'll teach them something profound or better their life in some way?
Health and travel will do everything. I think, like, if you figure out your physical health, that's going to go right to the mental. Like, I haven't eaten added sugar and I don't even know how long. Like, I just got off that shit. I'm very, very strict about what I eat. I'm very, very strict about, I've done the same workout routine. You know, I've been pretty strict with that, and I've kind of felt it in my mind, clarify my mind. And kind of when you feel like the chips are stacked against you and you feel like you have all this stuff weighing on your shoulder, if you go to the gym and you run 4 miles, like, that shit's gonna all lay out in front of you and you're gonna be able to see it, because that stuff really seems like nothing. And like it's so for me personally, like when we did this landscaping business, Austin and I, that was like, we were working harder than anyone probably in the country. I mean, in terms of physical labor, like, this shit was, every single day in the heat, like, like, we were just like grinding hard. And then, I got to college and they said that, oh, you got to sit down and do some classes on. I'm like, that's it. Like, that's easy. Like, so if you put yourself, I think, physically through things that might, like, that putting yourself through physically challenging things, like you said, kind of building those mental calluses will help you to get through bigger things that might not be on the physical side. And then also, kind of like I said, leave what you know to figure out what you know. So put yourself, get out of your comfort zone and get out of your physical location, save up some money, go to Texas, go to New York, go to wherever, and just, like, by yourself. Why not? Like, if you're there, there's never an excuse. Like, obviously, like, budget, make some money, put some money aside, and then go do it, because you're not going to regret it. You're going to regret not doing it.
Yeah. So I love both of those. I'm going to kind of consolidate that into like for a challenge that people can like just go out and do and like kind of check the box. Let's say for people listening, you have to go out and do one week of workouts that you don't think you'll be able to accomplish. So like for me, that would be, because obviously I work out pretty regularly, but one thing that I need to start working towards is I'm going to be doing a 24-hour endurance race in June. So right now I need to be able to get up to like 10 hours of working out straight.
Jesus.
So I'll do this week, I'll do a 6-hour endurance workout, because right now I don't think I can do that, but
that's intense.
I gotta practice what I preach. So obviously not everybody has to go out and just do a 6-hour workout, but for the people listening, Reed's official challenge to you, because he wants you to do something physically tough, is just pick a workout that you think is a little outside of your current ability and just crush it.
Do it outside, because get out of this controlled environment. Controlled environments are toxic. It's not the real world. Go out and run in the snow. Like, just do it. Go out and run in the heat. Like, just,
I like it. Evan, what about you? One challenge
Well,
for people.
so I think I have a challenge. I just want to ask you quick though. Are the majority of your listeners like, I don't want to just section in this, but what is like the general age? Like, are they usually
all over the place? If I had to pick, probably anywhere from late teens to late 20s.
okay? Because I mean, this would go. I've already run into this in my first semester of college. And this goes for people who are a little bit older, maybe out of college. But I challenge you to call somebody that you haven't talked to in over a year. one of your friends, it might even be a fringe friend from high school, from college, from work, and just check up on them, because I'll guarantee this. First of all, they'll put a smile on their face that you thought of them. And second of all, it will kind of, COVID's impact. I mean, it's just crazy. You don't know how COVID's impacted everybody, but you never know. And a lot of people are depressed today and things in this day and age. If you just give somebody a call and just connect with them again, and it'll probably make you feel good, and you might even hang out with them again, because I found that my friend group has shrunk even now, because I don't see anybody anymore, and I haven't even gone to college. I don't know anybody. It's kind of a weird place to be in, but I've kind of my friends have come back to the semester, and it's a really cool thing to see them again. But just give somebody a call and ask them how they're doing. And if you don't have your phone number, in today's day and age, you can probably find it, or email, and just say, hey, what's up? You want to grab lunch or something, and just do it. So that's my challenge. I don't know the direct benefit of that, but I do know that it could make somebody's day, and that you might, it's just a cool experience. That's what I would do.
I think there's a lot of benefits to that. So that's one of my practices is regularly reaching out, and man, I can tell you from experience, it lights you up, because it's kind of that like giddy excitement of like, oh man, what are they going to say? Like, are we going to actually hit it off, or is it going to be like, hey, what's up? Hey, what's up? All right, cool. Good talk. See ya. Like I've had those where people are like, why are you calling me? I'm like, oh, I just wanted to see what's up. They're like, oh, all right, cool. Yeah, not much. All right, have a good one. But it gives you that kind of excitement of like, you don't know what's going to happen. And then if it goes well, oh my gosh, the memories that you make from those calls. Like there was one person I didn't see in 9 years, and I just grabbed lunch with them, and it ended up being one of the best conversations I've ever had, because we just sat there and talked for over 4 hours. And it was because I dialed someone up and talked to him for 3 minutes. So man, I love that.
To tie the brand name into it, I'll call it the catch-up challenge. I challenge you to catch up with somebody.
I love that. Yes, that is the perfect way to finish this. All right, so for everyone listening, that's kind of the end of like the informational part of this. Evan, Reed, I want to thank you guys both for not only taking the time to come on, share your story, talk about the lessons you've learned through your experiences, but I want to commend you for, as I mentioned off camera as well, like going away from the standard curve, like not taking the path less traveled, definitely, but persisting on that path less traveled, and showing people that you can do just about anything you want outside of like flying without a plane or a jetpack or something like that.
Well,
we'll figure it out.
Yeah, so I want to thank you guys so much for, at the age you're at, especially, like these guys are in their teens, people, and they have started multiple businesses. They've got multiple patents. They're doing what they want to do on their own terms, and they're just making the most of life. So I want to thank you guys, and I have so much appreciation for what you're doing.
No, and we appreciate being on here. Again, this is one of those cool things. It's not a customer response, but I'm sure we might hear a couple people talk about this podcast, and just one of those cool. I mean, you never know. Maybe in 5 years, somebody will give me a message on LinkedIn or and say, "Hey, I listened to your podcast then, and I followed the brand, and I just wanted to, catch up with you or something." I don't know, but this is a really cool experience, and Reed and I know we can speak for us both. We love doing this, and this has been a pretty fun 1 hour journey here. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really appreciate you having us on, and we commend you for doing what you do, because you're helping people figure out how to live their best life and be their best self. But yeah, definitely, it's just fun like recording, because 5 years from now, 20 years from now, like us three are gonna look back on this and be like, that was a cool conversation. Like,
yeah,
it's cool.
Absolutely. So that is it. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Again, if you have questions about business, if you have questions about going through school while doing something on the side, if you have questions about, overcoming mental, physical barriers, if you have questions about mindset, these are awesome guys to reach out to. And like Evan said, just call them up. who knows, maybe you'll end up grabbing lunch with him. There's really no end to what you can learn if you just take a chance and reach out to people, sit down with them, and have a conversation. So that is about it. If you have questions for any of us, definitely comment below. And if there's someone you know who's looking to start a business, if there's someone you know who's going through school and is itching to do something outside of it, share this with them. That is why that share button is there. It's for you to show other people who need to hear this message. So that is all. Thank you guys for coming on, and to everyone listening, we will talk to you next time.